Renee Gerber, the mid 6216 version. Tonight I'd like to present to council for your review and record the latest signatures from our written petition against Walgreens' proposal to build at 63rd Street in Woodward. As of this afternoon, we have 1,030 signatures, and I also would like to present to council the latest names and comments from our online petition. As of this afternoon, we had 245 names and 47 comments. Sorry, I do not have any comments.
Thank you for that.
Tonight is the fourth time I have addressed council with my concerns and objections over Walgreens' proposal. At a past council meeting, it was mentioned that Walgreens' proposal was not created overnight, but there was a lot of planning and research involved. I then asked, what is the difference between this proposal and Walgreens' proposal to build on 63rd Street and Main? It was rejected by the Planning Commission and the village, even though Walgreens had done a lot of planning and research. The answer I was given was at the time of Walgreens' last proposal, the village didn't have a comprehensive land plan, but now they do. In response to that, I've asked the village to then follow that land plan, and now I'm hearing that the land plan is just a guide. It's frustrating and upsetting to hear this, to say the least. It's obvious to me and the other residents in this area as to why the Planning Commission voted almost unanimously to reject Walgreens' proposal. They rejected the proposal because they were following the guidelines of the comprehensive land plan. They were taking into account the definition of low-intensity commercial, which the land plan suggests for this area. As we have heard in past meetings, low-intensity office uses typically include professional services such as medical, dental, legal, and accounting. These uses are sensitive to their context in terms of scale, height, setback, and building materials. This requires consideration of parking, loading, signage, lighting, and business operations. Low-intensity office is what has been determined as an appropriate fit for this section of 63rd Street, taking into consideration the amount of traffic that would be added into a residential area, among many other things. This Walgreens, a retail store, not an office building, would exceed the volume of in and out traffic as defined under low intensity. The scale of this Walgreens, a 15,000 square foot, two-story building, twice the size of the current Walgreens on 63rd Street in Belmont, is bigger than any of the office type buildings we have in our area. An example of a typical office building near a residential area would be the recently built building on the east side of Belmont, just north of Maple, or the newly built office buildings on the south side of Hobson near Route 53. And if you could just show an example of what those, I have a couple pictures of those office buildings. They should be the first ones at the top. Not in order, sorry. Go down a little bit, sorry about that. Office buildings. Start with 061. Okay, this is a picture of an office building. It's the new type that you see now. It's one story. It looks like a home. It's structurally like that. Architecturally, I should say. It blends into the neighborhood. It would also, as I go on, you can see, if you look at the next one, shows another view. Few more pictures. Again, those two were at Hobson and Route 53, and then I have the one from Belmont, and this one is on Belmont and Maple. Again, one story with, again, fits and blends into the neighborhood. In addition to the full front facade of windows that will be on this new Walgreens, facing south and west, will be brightly lighted until 10 p.m. every night. A typical office building would have restricted hours of operation and would not be open that late at night. The parking lot and Walgreens sign will also shine brightly 24/7. A typical office building would not have a lighted sign or parking lot and would not be open 7 days a week. These retail-type characteristics which Walgreens exhibits simply do not exist with low-intensity office building. I also feel this new Walgreens is much more invasive because it encroaches further to the neighborhood, to the west and to the north than the current Walgreens, or even the AutoZone located on Belmont and 63rd Street. The entrance and exit off of Woodward will be at the top of the hill and directly across from a resident's driveway mere 18 feet away. In addition, this key piece of property where this exit and entrance will be is currently in litigation over title of ownership. So there still exists the chance that Draper and Kramer may not be able to purchase that property. All of these, except for the latter examples as to why Walgreens does not fit the low intensity description the plan dictates and the Planning Commission endorsed. And no amount of special use conditions is going to make this retail store into a low intensity office building. I also would like to say that personally I do not want to see any commercialization on the north side of 63rd Street. I believe it should remain, as it always has been, residential. This area, also known as Downers Grove Gardens, was a residential area long before there was any type of commercialization on 63rd Street. The majority of the homes were built in 1962. 63rd Street was a two-lane road surrounded by farmland. Woodward, Pershing, Belmont were gravel roads. Most of those residents that live in this area have lived here 25, 30, 40 plus years. I feel this is unfair, to say the least, to these longtime residents, as well as those who have recently moved into this area without any idea that one day their neighborhood could be rezoned commercial. If Walgreens is allowed to be built, to me, I feel the comprehensive plan is really not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I believe it will open the door for further commercialization of this type of retail business for the entire north side of 63rd Street. Commercialization, which involves the building of this Walgreens, will have a direct and negative impact on the demand of our homes and therefore the value of our homes. In fact, a neighbor recently contacted a realtor who said the minute they break ground to build this Walgreens, the homes around it will lose 25% of their value, and the rest of the neighborhood will lose 15% of their value. Who is going to compensate us for our losses? Our home and property are the biggest investment we will ever make in our lifetime. This risk and loss are simply not acceptable. I also find it disconcerting that someone outside of our neighborhood can decide what happens to our life as we know it. That this outside entity can decide when we look outside our window if we see land and trees or if we see the back of a brick commercial building, store roof, parking lot, and neon sign. That they can decide if we go outside whether we hear nature or if we hear slamming doors, idling cars, truck traffic, and drive-through voice boxes. That they can decide to allow additional cut-through traffic onto our residential streets and decide if our children are going to be safe while playing outside or walking, biking, and crossing the street due to this extra traffic. That they can decide if the demand for our homes and therefore the value of our home, again our biggest investment, will ever be able to reach its full potential. I've been to past council meetings, I've heard the state of the village. Downers Grove is sound, with an adjusted balance over $17 million. The village would continue to receive tax revenue from the current Walgreens on Belmont and 63rd Street for the next 2 years. If Walgreens' proposal is denied, the village will still prosper. But if Walgreens' proposal is approved, our neighborhood as we know it will be negatively changed forever. If commercial is inevitable on the north side of 63rd Street, which we've all talked to the commissioners, we know that you do want commercialization on the north side, then I would rather it be something that is going to fit into the neighborhood and not cause as many negative risks as this Walgreens will. I would rather that it be, as the comprehensive land plan suggests, low-intensity commercial. Bottom line is, our fate rests in your hands. I ask that when this proposal is up for a vote, that council will take into account the numerous articles and editorials that have been written against this proposal, that you will follow the village's comprehensive land plan, and that you will follow the advisement of your planning commissions and honor the requests of 1,000 plus concerned residents who have voiced their objections through our online and written petitions. I ask that you reject Walgreens' proposal. Together, let's find a better solution for this area, one that will benefit the village and the neighborhood and the residents that live there. As the first paragraph at the top of page 35 of the comprehensive plan states, residential character, specifically single-family detached residential neighborhoods, are one of the village's most cherished attributes and one of its most defining characteristics. Let that be your guide as you decide on this matter. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would politely ask that that not happen again. Let's please hold for applause. Thank you. I do have a question, Ms. Gerber, though. Do you have the name of the real?
It's $205,000 on that property. Piece of property purchased for a stormwater project and originally planned for demolition could be sold for over $200,000, ultimately decreasing the cost of the much-needed project significantly. This is a slightly edited version of the story. In the original stormwater project, the house at 5237 Benton Avenue was initially purchased in 2010 for $463,000 for the construction of an above-ground stormwater detention pond. Subsequent engineering design improvements allowed for less disruption to the neighborhood by moving the detention underground. Last fall, we attempted to solicit proposals to sell the property and unfortunately did not receive any proposals. The village attorney is at the charge of sentence to defend herself. During Tuesday's village council meeting, an appraisal issued last fall valued the home at $325,000. And while the current sale price is less than hoped for last fall, the sale and redesign together result in savings of almost $750,000 for the project as compared to the initial cost estimate, and have a long-term positive effects by putting the property back on the tax rolls. At the time of purchase, flooding in the area along Benton Street between Randall and Summits was a continual problem, and it was believed the property was needed for the facility. But the village ended up building a below-ground facility off to the side of the property that did not compromise the home. Now the village hopes to recoup some of the money spent on the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Under a bid before the council, the home would be sold to Oakley Home Builders, which makes its home in Downers Grove. It is a company that built its name rehabbing homes and constructing new houses on existing lots in the western suburbs. The bid offered by the home builder was the highest of 3 bids received, the funds will be developed and directed through the village's stormwater fund, a fund which you've heard this group talk lots about the importance of and lots about trying to figure out how to fund. Though the house will be sold for less than the village paid, officials contend, as does this official, that there are still a number of benefits as highlighted before. In addition, the below-ground facility will cost less to maintain than the above-ground pond initially planned. It's also of note that the project has, in fact, a solid history of flooding problem in the area. Okay, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, I admit. But it's important to me that when our staff works as they do, which is frankly 24/7 on behalf of residents, that the stories get out there accurately. And one could say we lost money on the house, but that would be ignoring the fact that we intended not even to resell it and recoup anything. Our staff did a great job of minimizing the impact on the neighborhood, reducing the cost of the project by darn near half, and continuing the flow of property tax for the parcel in the future. So I appreciate everybody indulging me here, but it's very important to me that people understand the whole process and the whole picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think we can find some media outlets for that article.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from members of the village council? Not nearly as creatively as you just did, but I was going to make a similar comment, and the headline was going to read, much needed village stormwater project comes in under budget by over $729,000, because that's exactly what this means. We bought a parcel of land, ladies and gentlemen, and it was going to be used for a stormwater project. There was never any intention to ever sell it. It was going to be just there for stormwater detention. As it turned out, because of Commissioner Barnett pointed out, staff's ingenuity and the engineering, and as the project went along, it turned out they didn't need the whole parcel. So even though this parcel was bought not to flip it or make a profit, that was never the intention. It was going to be used, it was going to display fallow for purposes of a stormwater project. It turned out it wasn't all needed, so we were able to sell the surplus property that wasn't needed for the project for over $200,000. So what this really means is we had a stormwater project that was budgeted to cost $1.6 million. It came in at $920,000. So the headline should have read, much-needed stormwater project comes in over $729,000 under budget. That would have been the feel-good story of the day, and I was disappointed about the headline that suggested that we somehow lost money, because that's just not correct. Any other questions or comments from the council on this item? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?